They left me to struggle, so I bought their debts and made them beg. Before we begin, please take a moment to subscribe and support our small YouTube channel. Every like, comment, and share helps us keep bringing you real, emotional stories that hit the heart. Handle it yourself, Ma. Not my issue. That was the last thing my daughter said before she hung up. I set my phone down and let the quiet settle. On the kitchen table beside my coffee mug lay a slip of paper that looked ordinary enough to anyone else, but it had remade my life overnight. 3 weeks earlier on a Tuesday, my numbers finally hit. Not the same numbers I'd been told were fool's luck, but the ones I'd carried like prayer beads for 13 years, dates that stitched together a life I built from grit. My late husband's birthday, our first apartment lease date, and the day my grandson took his first steps. If you're listening, tap follow and tell me where you're tuning in from, because this story isn't just about money. It's about what people reveal when they think you have nothing left to give. My name is Loretta Hollis, a 71-year-old grandmother from River Oak, Georgia. Every Tuesday, rain or shine, I'd walk to Jarvis Market on West Penniman, trade a few small bills for a single Sun-South jackpot ticket, and tuck it into the front of my Bible. Mr. Lyle Benton, my neighbor with a mouth full of opinions, loved to shake his head. Ms. Loretta, you have a better chance of teaching a cat to moonwalk. I'd just smile and keep stepping. That particular Tuesday, I was halfway through my chicory coffee when the news reader recited the draw. I wasn't even watching, just listening, until the second number landed like a drumbeat in my chest. By the fourth, my hands were shaking. By the sixth, I was on my feet, the chair legs skittering against the tile. The jackpot was $402 million. After the lawyers and the tax man, about $241 million. More than I could spend if I lived to 140 and still insisted on buying peaches in winter. I should have called my children right then. I should have told Chantel and Quentin that God had handed our family a second sunrise. But a different memory rose up last Christmas when Chantel joked about finally getting a real inheritance when the old lady stopped breathing. Or the way Quentin had started sending me links to active adult communities, talking through his teeth about safety and efficiency, as if the house I scrubbed and painted with my own hands had somehow become a problem he needed to solve. So I did the unthinkable for a woman like me. I kept a miracle to myself. For 3 quiet weeks, I met with an attorney who didn't blink at hard questions, a fiduciary who spoke to me like a partner, and a planner who explained every line item until I could teach the class. We created trusts. We drafted letters of instruction. We shielded assets I never dreamed I'd own. And when the ink dried, I decided on one last piece of business. A test. I wasn't interested in theatrics. I wanted the truth. If my children loved me, they would help without an audience, without applause, and without calculating what might fall out of my will. The test was simple. I would call each of them, say I was short on money for my heart medication, and ask for help. Nothing dramatic, just a bridge until the next check. The medicine part wasn't fiction. My prescriptions aren't cheap. But the need? That part had vanished the moment the Sun-South balls lined up in my favor. I dialed Chantel first. My daughter answers the phone like she's late to a meeting she doesn't want to attend. Hey, Ma. Make it quick. I'm about to run in somewhere. Baby, I'm sorry to bother you. I'm a little tight this week. My heart pills went up again, and... Mom. That word came out flat as a countertop. We just talked about this. You gotta budget better. I can't keep cleaning up your messes. Maybe call the county clinic. It's not a mess, sweetheart. It's just the timing. Mom, figure it out. Not my problem. The line clicked. I stood with the phone still warm in my palm, staring at the sunlight sliding across my kitchen table. I let a minute pass, then another. Then I called Quentin. He didn't even say hello. Ma, I'm between meetings. What's up? I hate to ask, sugar, but my prescription costs jumped this month. I could use a little help until my deposit hits. He sighed the way people do when the soup is too salty. Mom, I can't enable this. You've got to learn to live inside your means. Chantel and I were just saying, maybe it's time you think seriously about that senior community. They manage your meds and meals. Structure would be good for you. Enable what, exactly? I kept my voice even, the way I used to when my kids were little, and lying about who ate the last biscuit. Quentin, I'm asking for a small hand until... And I need to set boundaries. His tone shifted into that slow, important cadence he picked up when the bank made him a manager. I love you, but sometimes tough love is love. I understand. I did. Just not in the way he hoped. Also, I'm going to mute your number for a bit, he added softly, like a nurse prepping a needle. It'll help me keep perspective. The call ended. The house hummed. The clock in the hall ticked, dignified and unbothered. I've scrubbed blood out of uniforms and burned my fingers on hot skillets after double shifts to send those two through school. I've sold jewelry to cover book fees and patched the same roof twice with money that should have bought me a winter coat. And somehow, in their minds, I had become an inconvenience best managed by paperwork and pleasant brochures. But there was one more call to make. One person whose voice never carried that edge of calculation. Omari, my grandson. Chantel's boy. 22 now, studying business, still the only one who remembers to ask whether my collards came in sweet this year. I pulled up his name and pressed the green button with hands that had stopped trembling. He picked up on the second ring, wind whooshing in the background. Grandma Loretta, you good? I closed my eyes and finally exhaled. Hey, baby. I'm okay. I just might need a little help. I told him the same story I'd told his mama and his uncle. Then I waited. There was a pause brief enough to be a breath, long enough to be a measure of a man. How much do you need? He asked. I've got about $460 saved. I can drive down 260 miles this weekend, take you to the pharmacy, the doctor, whatever you need. Are you feeling all right? Right then, I knew the test had already done its work. I didn't take his money. I took his measure, and I started planning what came next. By Friday, my plan was stitched tight. I'd already opened the Hollis Family Education Trust and a modest emergency fund in Omari's name, with guardrails he wouldn't even notice yet. Saturday morning, his sputtering sedan limped into my driveway, hood humming like a kettle. He hopped out in a college hoodie, eyes bright, that same boy who used to hand me dandelions like they were roses. Grandma, I told you I'd be here first thing, he said, pulling me into a hug that smelled like laundry soap and library stacks. We're running an errand, I told him, grabbing my purse and keys. Pharmacy first? Something like that. We drove to Hudson Motors on the edge of town, where rows of hatchbacks winked under the sun. I watched Omari pretend not to be impressed, hands in pockets, doing the math of what he could never quite afford. The salesman started his script. I cut him off gently. We're looking for something safe, fuel smart, no gimmicks. 40 minutes later, Omari stood speechless beside a midnight blue Aurora hatchback. Warranty strong, crash rating strong, payments handled before he could argue. Title and insurance squared away in a file with his name embossed on it. Out front, I pressed the key fob into his palm. Grandma, I can't, this is... How much was this? His voice went thin around the edges. Less than your future's worth, I said. And paid for without touching a single pill bottle. He blinked. You sure? Drive it home for me. I smiled. I want to see what the turn signal looks like when somebody's dream is working. Back at my house in River Oak, Omari washed the car like it was a newborn, grinning between suds. That's when Chantel's pearl-white crossover rolled up, music too loud for a front street block. Her braids were slicked into a high crown, face set like a judge's. She stepped out and stared. Whose car is that? Mine, Omari called, bubbling over. Grandma surprised me. A beat later, Quentin pulled behind her in his gunmetal sedan, taking in the shine, the bucket, the hose, the joy. His eyes narrowed like a calculator. Inside, we gathered in the living room with the good drapes. The same room where my babies once built pillow forts and swore they'd never grow apart. Chantel perched on the couch edge, smoothing her dress that didn't need smoothing. Where did you get the money for a whole car, Ma? Quentin didn't sit. He hovered, old habit from boyhood, when he'd pace a groove into carpet. Last week, you said you were short for medicine. Did I say short? I asked lightly. Or did I say I needed a hand? Chantel's mouth tightened. Don't play, Mama. Cars don't fall from sky. I settled into my favorite chair, the one Ezekiel bought me on our 15th anniversary, when life was lean and love was loud. Well, I made a choice. If I had to skip something, I figured blessing my grandson beat fretting over a bottle. Chantel sat up straight. You cannot stop taking your heart meds to buy a toy. Omari stepped into the doorway, towel over his shoulder. Andy-chan, it's not a toy. And Grandma's fine. We talked about my classes and her garden, and... Quentin lifted a hand. Son, step back. This is grown folks' business. Quentin, I said, velvet over steel. You will not call him son in my house like he's yours to dismiss. He swallowed. Mama, this is irresponsible. You asked us for help, then turned around and flaunted this. It's manipulation. Is it? I kept my voice steady. Or is it illumination? Chantel scoffed. So, what, this some kind of test? Not a trap, I said. A mirror. Quentin slid his phone from his pocket. How much did this car cost exactly? 20? 22. $19 for 100 out the door, I said, cheerful as a cashier. Plus taxes and a little extra for peace of mind. Chantel turned to Omari. Baby, you can't accept this. Your grandmother's not thinking clearly. Omari looked from her to me, gears turning in that smart head. Grandma, did you really call them about help? Like you called me? I did. And they said no. The room went quiet except for the clock in the hall doing its steady, holy work. Quentin tried the soft shoe he uses with unhappy clients. We had concerns, Ma. You've made questionable choices lately. Such as? I asked. He opened his mouth and nothing useful came out. Let's talk about choices, I said, rising slow. I pulled a neat folder from my desk, the same desk where I once balanced a checkbook down to the dime. Quentin, 2 summers ago, who quietly caught up the balance on your second credit card so your points trip wouldn't tank your score. Chantel, who paid your rent 3 months after your separation and never asked for a thank you. Omari, who covered your textbook shortfall last spring when your campus job cut hours. Omari's head snapped toward his mother. Chantel's gaze dropped to the rug. Quentin's jaw set. You helped because you're a mother, he said finally, small as a mutter. And I asked for help because I am, I replied. Funny how that part got lost between your meetings. Omari cleared his throat, voice careful. Grandma, if this was a mirror, what did you see? I saw you, I said, and my heart eased. Ready to give all you had and drive 260 miles just to sit with me in a doctor's waiting room. No promises. No calculations. Chantel's eyes glossed with a heat that wasn't quite remorse. Ma, we didn't know it was urgent. If knowing I needed help didn't make it urgent, I said gently, what would? Quentin, finally Saturday, okay, he said, rubbing his forehead. We could have handled it better. You handled it honestly, I answered. You told me exactly where I sit in your world when there's nothing in my hands. Chantel leaned forward, palms up now. A new tactic. So now what? You want us to apologize? Fine. We're sorry. There. A soft laugh escaped me before I could stop it. Baby, that's like throwing a cup of water at a burning house and calling the fire department rude. Omari shifted. Grandma, I don't feel right taking the car if it's going to start a war. I touched his cheek. Gifts given from gratitude don't start wars. Greed does. He nodded, those big eyes bright. Then I'll take it with the promise that I'll earn it every day. Done, I said. Starting with oil changes on schedule and calling your grandmother twice a week. One for updates, one just to laugh. Quentin blew out a hard breath. I'm still stuck on the part where you jeopardize your health to make a point. I tilted my head. You didn't ask how I was feeling when you blocked my number. But since we're sharing, I'm well. And this, I gestured toward the window, where a blue hatchback gleamed like a fresh truth. This is the healthiest decision I've made in a long time. Chantel folded her arms. If you had told us you were flush, we would have responded differently. And that, I said, smiling for the first time since they walked in, is precisely why I didn't. The mirror was up. The picture, at last, was clear. Sunday afternoon sunlight spilled through the blinds, making little gold ladders on my floor. I stood at my desk while Chantel and Quentin sat across from me, restless in the silence. Omari hovered near the doorway, caught between pride and discomfort, the way good souls often are when truth gets loud. "Let's clear the air," I said softly. "Since my health has suddenly become everyone's favorite topic, I think it's time for a few facts." Quentin rubbed his temples. "Ma, please, not another lecture." "Lecture?" I smiled. "No, baby. Documentation." From a drawer, I pulled out a neat folder. Not dramatic, not thick, just enough weight to make the air change. "This," I said, tapping the edge, "is a record of every dollar I've given either of you in the last 5 years. Chantel frowned. "Why are you keeping receipts on your own children?" "Because memory fades," I replied, "but ink doesn't." Quentin shifted. "What's the point of dragging all this up?" "To show patterns," I said evenly. "Quentin, remember the motorcycle you couldn't afford 2 summers back? The one you swore was an investment in stress relief. Who paid that credit card balance so your financing wouldn't fall through?" He said nothing. His jaw worked like a man chewing regret. "And Chantel," I continued, "after your divorce, when you disappeared to that spa to heal? Who covered your rent and utilities while you soaked in lavender oil?" Her lips parted, then shut. Omari looked between them, disbelief dawning. "You too borrowed from Grandma while telling me you couldn't help pay for my textbooks." Neither spoke. Silence told on them better than words ever could. I sat back in my chair. "It's strange. You can track every sale, every deal, every gossip post, but you can't track the hands that fed you when no one else would." Quentin muttered, "We would have paid you back eventually." "With what money?" I asked. "You live like the Joneses are your landlords." He bristled. "We have responsibilities." "You also have choices," I said. "And I'm done financing the difference." Omari's brow furrowed. "Grandma, why are you saying all this now?" "Because truth is currency, baby," I said. "And I'm done letting mine depreciate." I turned to my children. "You think this is about a car? It's about the moment you both decided I was a burden instead of a blessing. The moment you valued comfort over compassion." Chantel's eyes shimmered. "Ma, we were worried about you." "No," I said quietly. "You were worried about control." The words hit the room like thunder on an empty porch. "Since you love financial advice so much," I continued, "I hired a professional, a private investigator, to help me understand my situation." Quentin's head snapped up. "You what?" "Oh yes. When you have real wealth, you need clarity. Turns out, my children's finances make reality television look humble." I opened another folder. Quentin monthly restaurant tabs, $1,800. Gym memberships you never use, $200. Interest-only payments on that condo you can't afford, $1,400. And Chantel, your beauty subscriptions, your boutique credit lines. Dear Lord, you owe half of downtown. She gasped. "You had us investigated?" "I had my environment assessed," I corrected. "And what a fascinating ecosystem it is." Omari blinked. "Wait, you really hired someone?" "Yes, sweetheart. Because when you hold more money than you'll ever need, you learn to guard it from predators, even the ones who share your last name." Chantel's voice cracked. "Ma, that's cruel." "What's cruel," I said, "is hearing your children discuss your funeral arrangements like a financial seminar." Their faces froze. "Don't look surprised," I went on. "The investigator heard everything. The talk about selling my house when I finally pass. The speculation about my insurance payout. Quentin even told a coworker he worried I might have dementia. How convenient if I did." "Ma," Quentin started, but I raised a hand. "And Chantel, you looked up guardianship laws. How to claim power of attorney if an elderly parent becomes incompetent. Funny thing, those searches leave digital trails." Omari's jaw dropped. "Auntie, Uncle, please tell me you didn't." "They couldn't. I leaned back and folded my hands. You thought you were planning for my decline. What you were really doing was auditioning for disinheritance. The quiet stretched so long I could hear the hum of the refrigerator. Here's the part you'll want to note down, I said, voice calm again. I've already had full cognitive evaluations from 3 doctors and a psychiatrist. Each certified me fit as a fiddle and sharp as a tack. Those reports are notarized, videotaped, and filed with my attorney. So when you thought you were laying groundwork to steal my future, all you built was a paper trail of your own greed. Quentin's face drained of color. Mom, we were scared about. No, I said. You were greedy. Scared people prey. Greedy ones plot. I stood up, closed the folder, and smiled, a real one this time. But don't worry. I'm not pressing charges or cutting you off just yet. Not officially. Chantel's head jerked up. Not yet. Because first, I said, walking to the window where the afternoon light spilled like mercy, I want you both to understand the difference between debt and gratitude. Outside, Omari's new car sparkled on the curb, blue as possibility. Tomorrow, I said over my shoulder, you'll find out which one you owe me. Monday morning arrived clean and bright, the kind of morning that dares people to tell the truth. At 8 sharp, Quentin and Chantel stood in my doorway again, both looking as if they hadn't slept. They were polite now, cautious, like 2 tenants meeting their new landlord. I set 3 cups of coffee on the table. One had sugar, one had none, one had honey. Let's skip the small talk, I said. I know you two are waiting on what comes next. Quentin's jaw was tight. Are you really cutting us out, Ma? I smiled. No, son. I'm giving you an opportunity. Chantel squinted. Opportunity for what? To learn what debt feels like when it's personal. I slid 2 envelopes across the table. Both thick, both labeled in gold ink. Inside you'll find official documentation, I said, from my legal team and from the institutions that used to hold your loans. Quentin tore his open first, scanning the first page. His face fell. You bought my debt? He whispered. Every line of it, I said cheerfully. Your motorcycle, your car, your credit cards. Same with your sister's. About $53,000 for you, $61,000 for her. All perfectly legal. My attorneys made sure of it. Chantel's mouth opened like she might scream, but all that came out was a thin squeak. Mama, that's evil. Evil is leaving your mother to beg for her heart medicine, I replied. This is justice with good handwriting. Quentin's voice cracked. You can't collect from us, we're family. Family doesn't block numbers, I said softly. Creditors, though, they have excellent follow-up habits. He blinked. So, what, you expect us to pay you back? Oh yes, I said. With interest. 21%, compounded monthly. Payment due in 30 days. Default means legal action. Chantel slammed her coffee down. We don't have that kind of money. I know, I said. But you'll figure it out. Remember? That was your advice to me. Omari, sitting quietly in the corner, tried to hide a grin. I continued, you can sell assets, Quentin, that bike should bring at least 10 grand if you stop pretending it's vintage. Chantel, that imported SUV that never leaves your driveway, maybe 15 if you find the right buyer. You're both educated, employable adults. Get creative. They stared at me like I'd sprouted horns. Or, I added, you can ask for help. After all, family helps each other when it's convenient. Quentin rubbed his temples. This isn't funny, Ma. I didn't say it was, I replied. But it is symmetrical. He pulled out his phone and started dialing. Who are you calling? I asked. People who might lend us something, co-workers, friends, anyone. He listened, waited, frowned. Hey, it's Q. I'm in a situation. Need a quick loan. No, not gambling, no drugs, just debt. My mother. He stopped listening again. Then softly, they hung up. I nodded. Seems like that contagious advice you gave me spreads fast. Chantel's eyes watered. Mama, please. Don't do this. We made a mistake. We're sorry. Sorry for what? I asked. Be specific. For not helping you when you needed it, Quentin murmured. For saying you were a burden, Chantal whispered. For plotting to take your house and your money, Quentin added, voice cracking. I folded my hands. Now that, I said, is the first honest conversation we've had in years. Chantal leaned forward desperately. So you'll forgive us? Forgiveness is free, I said. But freedom from debt costs. Omari chuckled softly, then bit his lip to hide it. Chantal stared at me. You're enjoying this. I'm enjoying balance, I said. And education. I spent decades teaching y'all to read. Now you learn to read contracts. Quentin exhaled shakily. We'll find a way to pay you back. We'll fix this. I stood up, pushing my chair back slowly. Oh, you'll do more than that. You'll grow. From my purse, I pulled another envelope and handed it to Chantal. Inside is a letter from Carver's Grocery. They need night stalkers. Minimum wage, steady work. She blinked. You want me to stock shelves? Why not? It's honest. Builds humility and biceps. Quentin laughed bitterly. And what's mine? A janitor position? Close, I said. Dishwasher at Pine Street Diner. The same place I worked double shifts to send you through college. You'll like it. Good people, simple meals, reality on the menu. They both sat in stunned silence. Omari finally spoke, gentle but firm. Grandma, this is wild. It's restoration, baby, I said. Everyone's balance sheet needs one eventually. Chantal pressed her palms together. Ma, we can't. The humiliation. Humility, I corrected. Different word. Better lesson. Then I stood, raised my coffee cup, and said quietly, to family loyalty, may the ones who lost it rediscover its price. The clink of ceramic on wood was the only sound that followed. Outside, the blue hatchback gleamed brighter than ever. And for the first time in years, so did my piece. By Wednesday, the story had leaked. It started with Quentin's co-worker, the one who'd overheard him bragging last month about setting up Mom's guardianship early. Word travels fast in small cities, faster still when money's involved. By lunchtime, folks at his bank knew. By evening, half of River Oak was whispering about how a certain brother and sister had tried to sideline their own mama right before she struck gold. They arrived at my house that night, both trembling from damage control. Chantal's eyeliner was streaked, Quentin's tie was missing, and Omari, bless him, was sitting on the porch swing, calm as sunrise. Ma, Quentin began, voice rough. Everyone knows. My boss called me in. They think I was plotting to scam you. My job, my reputation. I folded my arms. Actions have echoes, son. You just started hearing yours. Chantal burst in. Mama, please. We'll make this right. We'll apologize, do interviews, anything. Just help us fix this. Funny, I said. That's almost exactly what I told God when I was raising y'all on diner tips. Quentin's voice broke. You've made your point. I don't think I have. I walked to the mantel, picked up a sealed envelope stamped from my attorney's office, and handed it to Omari. What's this? He asked. The trust paperwork, I said. You're now my sole heir. Every property, investment, and asset is protected under your name, managed by a board until you turn 25. Chantal gasped. Mama, you can't just. I can, I said, calm as prayer. And I have. Omari's hands trembled. Grandma, this is everything. Yes, and it's not for spending, it's for stewardship. You'll finish school, maybe start that small business incubator you've been dreaming about. You'll hire people, fund scholarships, build community. That's your inheritance. He nodded, eyes shining. I won't let you down. I turned back to my children. As for you two, you won't be destitute, but you'll be busy. Those jobs I mentioned? They start Monday. Pine Street and Carver's both confirmed your shifts. Chantal covered her face. You told them we accepted? I told them you needed humility more than flexibility, I said. They agreed. Quentin slumped. You're destroying us. No, I said, my voice gentle now. I'm rebuilding you. He looked up, red-eyed. What about family? You always said blood should mean something. And it does, I said. It means obligation, not entitlement. It means remembering who changed your diapers before you decided she was disposable. They both fell quiet. Omari reached over, squeezed my hand. Grandma, they're hurting. Consequences often do, I said softly. But pain teaches better than pity. Chantel sniffled. Ma, I was wrong. I see that now. Maybe one day you'll really see it, I said. When helping someone doesn't promise you profit. I poured 3 glasses of lemonade and lifted mine. Here's the truth, children. Money doesn't make you powerful. It makes you visible. It shines a light on who you already were in the dark. You too showed me greed. Omari showed me grace. Quentin whispered, so that's it? We're finished. You're not finished, I said. You're finally starting. You'll work, you'll sweat, you'll earn what you used to demand. Maybe in a few years, you'll earn forgiveness too. The clock chimed 6. I stood, walked them to the door, and hugged each one brief but real. Go home, I said. Rest. Tomorrow's honest work begins early. They left in silence. Omari lingered, still clutching the envelope. Grandma, he murmured, you sure you're okay? I smiled. Baby, I'm free. There's a difference between being alone and being at peace. He nodded, hugged me tight, then drove off in his blue Aurora, taillights fading like twin prayers. When the house was quiet again, I looked at the photo on the mantel. Me, younger, standing outside the diner in my apron, grinning like hope itself. That woman had dreamed of raising children who'd understand the weight of kindness. She didn't fail. She just took a little longer to finish the lesson. So I raised my glass to the empty room and whispered, to loyalty, the kind that money can't buy and betrayal can't bankrupt. And as the evening settled around me, I finally realized something simple, something sacred. The lottery gave me fortune. My children gave me truth. But my grandson gave me faith again. And that's how a grandmother's heartbreak turned into the greatest lesson her family would ever learn. Money may buy comfort, but it will never buy compassion. In the end, true wealth isn't what sits in your bank account. It's what shows up when life tests your heart. If this story touched you, tap that subscribe button, leave a comment, and tell me where you're watching from. Would you have done what Loretta did? Or would you have forgiven them? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Because every story has 2 sides, and sometimes the richest treasure isn't gold at all, but the peace that comes from knowing your worth. Follow for more powerful tales of justice, family, and redemption.